Alright, well, we've got another CD-i console. This one is quite a bit different than the other Philips CD-i player that I have, which looks almost more like a VCR, or like a DVD player or CD player from back in the day, whereas this one resembles a little bit more of a console. It's got our input here in the front, it's got our disk drive here. This is where the digital video cartridge gets inserted for this model, which lets you play certain types of content. We're going to close that back up there. And we've got our power button on the side, which is an interesting choice. And around the back, we have our RCA hookups and our, oh, that's DC out. Interesting. Not what I was expecting. Here we have our DC in, which is the first time I've ever seen if it's an RJ45 connector on a power supply. But this is the power supply, which they did the popular choice of moving the power supply components outside of the box and putting all the rest of the components inside to minimize space. But this is the power connector, which is very interesting. And what we're going to do is we're going to power this on, again, by pushing in the side, and we'll see what we get. So here's our system. Now this one, unlike the other player, doesn't have infrared. You have to actually buy a separate infrared adapter for this, or use one of the wired controllers, which are pretty hard to come by for a reasonable price, but I'm going to be doing a couple videos on that later. I'm going to make my own, hopefully, adapters to a Super Nintendo controller and see if we can get a wireless controller hooked up. But I digress. We're going to see how this system works. So you can see that changed to open once I open that up, and I do want to say one of the things I did check when I got it is that this spins freely, and it does. That's one of the most common issues. And we're going to press this down. We see it's closed, it says disk, but nothing's happening. In fact, if I open this back up here and I take out our little opener, you can see it doesn't even spin. If I take the disk out here and make it think that I close the tray, we can notice the laser does move up and down, but I don't actually even see any laser coming out of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this open, which we've got screw holes here and here, and then I believe there's some underneath the digital video cartridge. So we're going to take this apart and just take a look, see if there's anything out of sorts with the laser, and if not, it's likely that the laser has gone bad and I do have a new one on the way. So we'll see how this goes. I did want to share, when I press the power button, this does seem to spin up a little bit. Doesn't sound great, but it's something. And again, I think that might be indicative of the fact that it's not reading the disk and not seeing anything come up at all. It sees there's a disk, which actually is interesting. And it's entirely possible I may just need a controller in order to move it over and click on disk. I'm not sure if this is supposed to autoplay, now that I think about it. But I have no way of connecting to the input in order to tell. We'll do some research online and see what this is supposed to do. Which I guess I can do a test here. If I take the disk out and close it, does it say disk? It does. Okay. Well, I guess that kind of confirms it. It's almost like it thinks there's a disk, even though there's not one in here. And I say all these things, but you can't tell what I'm looking at. Looking at the screen here, and if I press down on the tray sensor, changes to disk. If I let go, it says open. If I take the disk out, do the same thing. It says disk. So it still thinks there's a disk in there. And I'm gonna power it on, power it off. It's reacting a little bit. So there's some life in it. I have a feeling that the laser array's bad though, so I have a new one on order. We're going to crack it open and see what we can find. Okay, we're back over the old workbench. Spending a lot of time over on the test bench because I need so much room to work on a lot of those big units. But yeah, a nice little tiny console over here. We're going to take a look at for a change. Let's see, this is, yeah, that comes out. That's good. Okay, let's see how this pops out. This is our digital video cartridge, which I believe just pops up. Like so. Good thing I didn't bend it, because holy moly, look at all those pins in there. Those are tiny. Yeah, definitely want to be careful with those. So, there's a digital video cartridge, which you'll have to be very, very careful about handling. Okay. Oh, I've got our model number on the side. So there are the two screws that we're going to be dealing with. And hey, it's our good friend T6. T6 screws. Nope, just kidding. Dang. I was feeling really good about myself there, thinking I had that in the bag. That's T8. Try that again. Be very, very careful not to drop this on our digital video cartridge pins. This thing's got me worried. So one of the things that I'm going to do to this console is I'm going to assume that the Timekeeper chip is bad. And if you're not familiar with my other video on the CDI, or if I haven't posted it yet, which is also entirely possible, the Timekeeper chip is a chip that is pretty much RAM and a CMOS battery all in one. That's a pretty basic and probably incorrect representation of it, but that's kind of what I'm thinking of them as. And they're chips that have pretty much a CMOS battery inside them, and they keep track of your, your date, that's the name, Timekeeper, and all your save games. So those things go bad about every 10 years or so, and have to be replaced, but they're soldered in, so it makes it really quite challenging. There we go. Quite challenging to swap them out. But I've retrofitted my other CDI so that when I do have to swap it out again, which will happen, but I can use a little IC, integrated chip extractor, or integrated circuit extractor, to pull it out and then replace it. Well, here's our top shell. I'm actually going to grab our screws from out of there, and then I think I'm going to wash this. I think it'll clean up really nice. I'm going to have to watch out for this piece here. This is the LED. Well, the thing looks like a spaceship. Make sure that I don't lose this. This one I don't think will be as replaceable as the GameCube lens for its controllers. Let's see if there's any other pieces. There might be more that I want to remove before washing it, like the clip here. But we'll set that aside for now. Okay, so one of the challenges with the Timekeeper for this unit is this heat shield here. Or I'm sorry, not heat shield, but this the shielding in general. Let's see if I can get this out without removing the disk drive. There we go. wires are super thin, like 28 gauge, I think. Definitely make me feel like I'm very close to breaking them, which I don't like. These are easily crimped too, which is also not good for signal. Okay, well, seems okay. A little sledge just sits right on there. It's a tiny sledge. Alright, so we're going to take this off. Now here is our Timekeeper. See if we can zoom in on it. So this is the M488T08 150 PCI. That is an important model to know because it has to be replaced with that same chip. So there is a CMOS battery or a coin cell battery right here embedded in the plastic. And on the other side of this circuit board, which I'm sure there's some screws. Oh, I was thinking I was going to have to remove more of this than I guess I do. We'll take a closer look in a second. But I have to desolder this chip, and what I will be doing is soldering in, well, this is where things get tricky. On my bigger CDI, I have a lot more space. The thing's got this much, let me zoom out here. The thing's got this much room where I have all this air gap right up top of it. This thing, that heat shield, that's almost right on top of this chip, so I don't have any room. And where that gets dicey is when you've got an IC socket like this, or a DIP socket, dual inline package chip socket, like so, which normally I would be able to set down here. I would take this out, replace it with this, then I can insert a new Timekeeper whenever I need to. Problem is, this is going to make it too thick. So, I've got a different plan for this one, and I haven't gotten all my parts yet, but I'm hopeful that it's going to work out how I want it to. So for this unit, what I want to do, instead of soldering on that socket there, I've got a different type of socket here. This is an IDC ribbon. What's it called? What's the technical term there? Clip. It's a flat cable IDC plug, they call it. So what this will let me do, let's see if I can get the clip off of here. I don't think I can right now. I just want to make sure I don't clip it down. But each of these teeth in here is going to represent a cable for a ribbon cable. And I will be able to take that ribbon cable, insert it into here after I solder it down, and then I can take that ribbon cable and kind of place it wherever I want, wherever I have some room. I was looking over here, and it looks like I've made a bit of room over there that I might be able to fit it. If I can't put it somewhere, I don't really want to put it in here with all these chips, but I might still do that. I might just wrap it in some insulated tape and call it a day. But I have a breakout chip for a dip chip that will let me solder the wires in, and I'll get all of that and we'll build it all together, and we'll see how it all works. But I'm hopeful that that it works, and I'm gonna have to remove this motherboard in order to see what we're working with here. I also have to see if there's anything going on with this sledge. Like the laser sits right on top, like so. How does that fit? Okay, all these wires are going to be very, oh, Well, better the plastic break than the wires break. Oh, jeez. Got that all down here is where the laser connects to. And then underneath, we've got a ribbon cable there. Oh, that looks pretty decent. But I am going to disconnect it. Try not to mess up any of our capacitors there. See how easily this thing pops up. Not bad. Not bad at all. Kind of hopeful, well, really hopeful, that the sludge that I got has all these connectors soldered in. Because I did see one area where you could buy these that they were not soldered in, which would just be kind of a pain in the butt. Let's see what happens with this motherboard, see how hard it is to get it out here. I have to look at this. Get a tiny flat end. Well, we'll see if we can lift it up and out without breaking anything off here. Okay, there we go. This motherboard is much smaller than the other one I was working with. And there's the rest of our chassis. So, under here. Wow! Pretty clean, surprisingly. Not bad. So the only thing that really broke so far is this little clip for the wires, which I should be able to super glue on. I'm going to snap it off right now because it's going to come off naturally anyway, and I don't want it to come off in the dish soap. That one looks like it's doing okay for now. Okay. So, we're going to get this in the dishwasher. Oh, you know what? I might not wash this all the way because I want to protect this. I might try to see if I can put some tape over it or something. Because these are like paper stickers, and I don't want to lose this. These will be fine, but I don't want to lose that. Let's see what I can find. Okay. Move our system board for a moment. So, we got our LED, its lens, and looks like these posts come out for the hinge. Don't know if I'll be removing that or not. What I am going to try to do is see if I can get the clip out. I don't really want to get that wet. I'm going to try doing is, looks like there's these little tabs here and here. Yep. There's a tab on that side, a tab on that side. Once I push this out, you'll be able to see a little clearer. Those are the clips I was pushing in on. So once we're ready, we'll slide that back in and it should click into place. Right now we're left with that little hole, which is fine. And I want to take this out here, which again has a little clip. Let's see if I can zoom in. So this area right here, I'm going to reach underneath. Let's see if, well, maybe I'll reach up top. What am I going to push that out with? Yeah, I think I'm going to push it out with that. what I'm doing is closing it a little bit, and then bringing it up. I'm going to close it even more, and this time not far enough, so I'm closing it almost all the way. Dang. Almost got it out there. Try not to snap this door off. There we go. Okay. Kind of had to turn it while I was pushing it down. Hopefully you saw that. Okay. Next, I don't really want to remove this, but I think I have to. Oh, that wasn't bad. And that's clean, so I don't really need to do anything with that. I just kind of pried that gently over and pulled it out. Next, and I don't know if I'm going to do anything here. We'll see how the tension is on it. So I think I just need to pull these out. Looks like there's a little tab that we gotta pry open, or pry up. Yeah, I just have to lift that gently while pushing it the other way. Let's see if I can zoom in here. Okay, so there's a spot there. I'm gonna pinch it here. Let's see if we can slide it ever so gently. And if I can't get this, I'm not going to worry about it. Yeah, I don't feel like breaking that. I feel like that's going to be really difficult to fix. So let's go put that in the bath, clean that up a bit. I might just put some packing tape over. Oh no, that's sticker. I'm gonna try to, maybe we can put a Ziploc bag over it or something, and then put tape on there. I don't know. But we got a little sticker here. Roboco. I want to keep that. I want to see if I can stick that back on somewhere. Let's see if I can take this off real quick. Did that come off? And there's a clip I don't really feel like breaking right now. Okay. Oh good, I didn't break it. Perfect. You know, I'm going to wash that too, because that's pretty nasty. Okay. Feeling much better about that. So, while we have this out, I also want to show you this. So this is where our Timekeeper is soldered in. So I'm going to have to remove that, desolder it, and then this is where the thickness issue comes into play. But I'm going to solder down our ribbon clip here, our plug, as it were, and have it come out, I think that, yeah. I'm going to have it come this way with the ribbon. I can loop it over, and I'll see how big that, I'm not sure how big that breakout board is going to be. But we'll see how that looks when we get here. I don't want to desolder it until I get that, all the parts, so that I can make sure that it works okay. So we're going to see what we can do about that sticker now. Alright, so I've got some plastic wrap cut out and put over the label, and I'm just going to take some regular packing tape and see if I can seal it around the edges, and then we'll try to wash it with that. Alright, well there we go. And it's plastic wrapped down. Kind of wish I would have plastic wrapped this. I hope that it doesn't rip the ink off, but I'm going to try to do it very carefully. We'll see. Alright, well, unfortunately I did not think ahead enough to do a nice reveal on how the saran wrap and tape worked out, but I think this worked out pretty well. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can get a full view. But this thing really did clean up quite nicely along the front and the sides. Like, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. The inside's nice and clean. So we're gonna pop everything back together here, and this tray should just slide back into place like so. This piece here goes right like this, I believe. Maybe this slides on here. Probably need to slide it in. There we go. So that's how that sits for the motherboard. And now we're going to set this over to the side, and we're going to put our top lid back together, which we've got our little gear wheel here. I need to very carefully put into place. Hopefully this just kind of fits back in. I'm lining up the edges with the edges of the slot here, or trying to. Also getting probably some grease on my hand. There we go. Oh, shoot. Well, that's not good. Come back out. Alright, well that was close. Well, let's get this lined up correctly this time. Alright, let's try this one more time here. I'll try lining it up from the top. I feel like I need to slide it in from that side. Maybe I can push this guy in at the same time. Still not going in lined up. I don't like that. And this looks like it's the same from either angle. I hope I'm not going to have to take off the hinges, but I may have to do that. We'll see. Alright. We're gonna try removing the hinges and pray that I don't break them. Okay. So far so good. Got the right pliers here. Okay. Actually wasn't too terrible. And maybe I can get away with just the one. Maybe. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to do both. Let's see if I can do this with just pliers, and so prying up so gently. Going back to the screwdriver, I feel like I had a little bit more flexibility with that. Come on. Okay, I think we got it. There we go. Okay. That should lift right out, I believe. Yep, there we go. All right. Now let's clip this thing in the right way here. Man, even without that there, it's a little challenging. There we go. Okay. Hopefully this thing fits in how it's supposed to. Alright, slide these back in. Try to line these up before I slide them in, so make sure we get them both aligned, because I'm also going to make sure that those go in how they're supposed to. Okay. Come on now. Oh, don't want to do that. Why is that not going in? I don't think there's any other thing stopping it. Oh, I see. Kind of wiggling this back and forth. I do the same thing with this one. Oh. Almost need like a little hammer. Try to pound it in. There we go. There we go. There's one of them. And let's see if we can get the other one in now. Yep. There we go. Whew. Well, that was a lot of work, but no pieces are broken. That's the important part. Now we can put our little clip, come on, back into place. That'll go right in here. I don't think it matters which way is front. So we're gonna try it with the spring facing forward. Push it right in. All right, good to go. Feeling good about that. And this is how our power button turned out. Come on. Turned out nice and clean. We'll put that over to the side. We'll need it later. And this is how the front turned out, which I might try something else to get some of these scuffs off of it, but I think it'll be okay for now. Slide this into place here. And there we go. So, all cleaned up. And next thing we're going to do, I do want to put the shielding prop, I don't know what to call this, but we're going to put that back in like so. So, there we go. So now we will be waiting for our Timekeeper and cabling and parts to come so that we can swap this out and swap our laser out. Oh, which reminds me, one piece we did not put in is our spindle wheel here. So we'll see if this is, hope I can get this in without breaking it again. There we go. So I just very gently pried that in, and we're good to go. Okay. Time to wait for some parts. Just kidding. I had one more piece, which is always a piece that I forget. LED lens here, which we're going to pop in like so. And there we go. Now we're good. Alright. Let's wait for some parts. Okay, well, we've got our replacement sledge from Walmart, of all places, who seems to be doing a similar thing to AliExpress. But what we need to do now is take this sledge off here and put this one on. So I'm going to see if I can slide these little rubber feet out. Maybe without ripping them. Oh, come on. There's one. There's two. There's three. And I'm trying to do this one without ripping any of the wires. And there's four. Okay. This little piece here is not included in this one, but we'll see if it really matters or not. Hopefully not. So we'll get our wire down underneath. And it should just be a matter of sliding this back in. Okay, got our wires underneath. I think we're in good shape. That's looking good. So we're going to grab our motherboard and see if we can get this reattached. Okay, here we've got our motherboard. I'm actually thinking I need to put this back in our case so that it sits correctly. So we're going to get our case back here. lay this in. Let's see. Get this. There we go. So I'm not going to worry about putting the power on it, I don't think, right now. I'm going to put the shield on. Well, yeah, let's see if I can press that with my screwdriver. I have to put the power button back on it after all. You know what? I might be able to do this without the heat shield, or without the electromagnetic shield here. We're gonna try it. Because I'm still going to have to come back and replace the Timekeeper, so I don't want to have to take off the power switch again. That thing was kind of fragile coming out. Okay. Oop. That was not in all the way. There we go. Much better. See if we can rest this. But I got a bunch of extra wire here on this new one. Alright. Well, I think in order to do this right, I'm going to have to put the power button back on. And we'll just try not to break it. Now, let's see if we can get all this underneath the shielding. Nope. I think I have this backwards again. Let's see. There we go. Man, these extra wires are gonna bug me. Okay. That's as good as it's gonna get. Okay. That's in place. The main reason I want to get this on is because the lid is going to be what holds the disc in place when it spins. So I want that in as much in place as possible. Why is that not going in? There's a little peg right back here. This needs to slide into place. There we go. There we go. Okay. Let's see how that fits. Okay. There we go. Let's see if this thing plays. Alright, well, we've got it set up. Got my little controller adapter here too, and we've got it reading. Let's see if play works. I was like, I don't have any sound. Well, that's because... yes. Rihanna playing from the Magnavox CD-i. Perfect. So, next test is going to be to see if our burned copy of Link in the Face of Evil boots up. Alright, we've got it inserted, and we are... oh, geez. Well, I was going to say we're in business, but holy crap. That sounds horrible. Wow. I might have to grease this thing up a little bit. Good news is... ooh! It is working. But man, I'm going to have to add some grease to that, that sledge, I think. Dang! That was loud. But it's working. So... cool? Just gonna have to do some lubrication over there, but it's loading up, so this is progress. Still, this does mean we have a working CDI. So I'm gonna crack this back open, take the disk drive out, and we're gonna see if we can lube it up a little bit, and then we're gonna do the Timekeeper replacement as well. All right, well, we've got our supplies today that have arrived, which we've got a breakout board for, I believe this is an SOP chip is what it's called. On the back we've got an SSOP, which is the little tinier solder pads here. See if I can focus on it. And this should let us break it out into a DIP, dual inline package layout. The plan here is to... let's get all of our parts out here. We'll see if we can lay it out. Okay. Here are the parts. This is the old Timekeeper chip from my 910, my CDI 910 unit, but I'm going to use that as an example here. So we've got ribbon cable, we've got a 28-pin, I'm not even sure what to call this. I think they... what do they call it? Got it from DigiKey. Yeah, it's a plug flat IDC. And this is going to be used in conjunction with the ribbon cable. We're going to solder this in place where the Timekeeper goes on the motherboard. And then we're going to run a ribbon cable over to this breakout board. We're going to solder the ribbon cable onto these leads here, and we're going to have the socket, which I'm going to have to kind of bend, because I'm noticing one thing that this thing didn't specify was the width. The pitch is correct on this, but the width is not gonna match up. So we're a little bit off. So I'm gonna try to bend this a little bit. My goal is, I don't know if I'll be able to. Let's see how flat this lays. I want to put the cables underneath this so that it kind of crimps it down. I might not be able to. I got a couple of these, so we can do a few proof of concepts and pilot it, but the first thing I'm going to try doing here, oops, well, that's not how you want to bend the pins. They are malleable to a degree, so let's see if we can do that again, and this time we'll bend a few of these out this way. So we want 28 to there. So So we can fit all of those all in. Yep, those are all in. Now we need to fit these in as well. Well, that might not work how I want it to. One side fits, but both sides don't, not at the same time. I might be able to bend them out and bend them in with my pliers. See if we can do that. This is going to be really kind of jankety, but I don't see any reason why this shouldn't work. So we're bending all these out, and then what we're going to do is use our pliers and see if we can bend these. See if we can do a couple at a time. Okay. Okay, let's see how that fits. So definitely need to be able to solder these in once I have it in there. That's not bad. Okay, let's see what we can do with this one. I might just try to pop all of these in and at the same time bend it. Oh, there we go. Kinda. Okay, that's not bad actually. That looks pretty even, and on this side we don't have the full pin out here. This one I might be able to, this one, oh geez, come on, focus. This 28 pin I might be able to bend up a little bit, but the rest of them are actually coming through without any issue. Not sure what's up with Mr. 28. There we go, that's better. So now the problem is I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit all 28 wires underneath this. I was actually thinking I might be able to slide them through the sides here, but I think what I'm going to have to do instead is put this on the other side. So what we're going to do, let's see if we can dry fit this. There we go. So that's fitting pretty nicely on that side. So what this is going to let us do is once we solder in the ribbon cable on here, I can take the chip on and off, I can replace it as is, and then the ribbon cable will be connected to here. This will be connected to the motherboard. So I'm actually going to, oh, well, that's unfortunate. Jeez. Thing snapped like crazy. Now I'm wondering if that's going to cause any issues. Like I imagine it might, but it's entirely possible it won't. Because I'm going to have to crimp this down really hard. I don't think the clip is going to be necessary after that. So we might be okay. I might just use this as a test outside the board, not solder it in yet, but just make sure that all of the pinouts are correct. So I'll use this as like a proof of concept, because that is one thing that I need to make sure I get correct is the pinout. So I'm going to try to find a way to identify this. I think that A down there is how I'm going to use it. So on the motherboard here, well, the writing is we have this on the left and the writing is reading upright. We will put this down with the writing reading upright, and then I think we'll have the ribbon cables come down this way. But essentially it's going to be every other one. So far side starts at 1. Jeez, sorry for the focus. Far side starts at 1. That's 3. This is 2. So we're actually, every other one is on this ribbon cable is going to be the next consecutive number. So if we take this out here, this is 34 pin, or 34 conductor, 34 wire. And we're going to line this up on here. And if we use this as an example, we can see that, if I can line this up a little bit better. So, come on. There we go. So we can see on the left there, yellow would be 1, red would be 2, every other one is going to be the next consecutive number. And then on the other side, that'll actually be, I probably need to map this out, because it goes, pin numbers go, I go like this, they go down 1 through 14, 15 through 28. So if I'm looking at this chip here, I'll flip it over, we start at 1 here, go to 15, or 14, and then 15, and come back all the way up. So this is pin 1. Pin 1 is the bottom left. So our pin 1, I actually want this to start like that. So this will be pin 1, the far left. And they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through 14, 15 through 28. So it's going to go like that. A is actually going to be upside down if we do it that way. But I think that should be fine. And then what we're going to end up doing on this side is we will match those pins up. So we will say pin 1 here is going to line up to this solder pad here, which goes to pin 1. The solder pad here goes to pin 2. And it's going to be like every other one. That's going to be interesting how it does that, because it's going to be 1, or actually 1, 28. So 1, 28. They'll be right next to each other as they go. But I'm going to need to take my time with doing that. But I think what I am going to do is, since I have this all in place, I think I'm going to solder this together so that I don't have to worry about that in the future. Then we'll have our piece ready to go. Okay, well, got the soldering done, and I've got a few bridges over here, but I'm going to fix that once we actually put the cable on. But this is what's going to hold the Timekeeper unit, which, if we have our numbers accurate, we're going to keep 1, which is 1 is down there. Actually, that'll be the opposite here. So 1 is there, and we'll be able to put it into our little clip, like so. And then we have our own little reusable Timekeeper thing. I don't know what to call it at this point, but it'll let us swap it out, and hopefully there's going to be enough room for this thing in our unit. This is probably going to be the hardest part. It's getting this thing out. Oof. Might have to... Oop. That was rough. Okay. Well, luckily none of the joints here seem to have had any issues, but that was definitely harder to take out than I thought it would. Might have to figure out a solution for that. But the next thing that I want to do is I want to do a proof of concept of these wires here. So again, this is 34, which means we're going to take 6 off of this to get 28. And I'm trying to figure out which 6 we're going to take off, but I'm going to make sure my count is correct also. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're going to end at purple. Oh, at purple. There we go. So we can strip it like that. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to lay this across like so. And make sure that everything lines up how it's supposed to. Ouch. Okay, we got them all lined up there. So I'm going to squeeze this down. We're going to use our tool here, which I think will fit this this set as well. We're going to see how well this actually works. Okay. Oh, well, that doesn't sound good. Well, we might end up needing to get an adapter for that. Great. Well, we've got our new crimping tool, which is this HT214D IDC crimping tool, which comes with this little attachment, which I'm sure somebody smarter than me would be able to, well, and somebody with a 3D printer would be able to make one of these without having to order a whole tool for it. But one thing that is also interesting about this tool is it's got, compared to my other crimping tool here, let's do a side by side, you can see there is a bit of a difference. This one has a flat panel here, this one's got like rounded, and obviously these in here look quite a bit different. There's the bottom side for the thicker IDC, but nice to know that they do make a special tool for this purpose. And you can see there's a wider and thinner side, which I did test this out just a moment ago. If it wasn't for the fact that that thing was already broken in half, we'd be able to see that this does fit right over the edge. So I think this is going to work. Let's give it a shot. And this one I'm kind of writing off since I already broke it, but I am going to use it as my proof of concept here. Slide that down there. I feel like the most challenging part is going to be trying to get everything to stay as it's supposed to. Now we're going to stick this in like so. Actually, what I should have done is let's take this off and try this differently here. What I tried last time was getting those lined up on the pegs, like so. Now we're going to put this over top of it. That should hold it in place while we slide it over our thing here. I'm going to put that on there to keep things together. And now I'm going to make sure that all of these cables are lined up where they're supposed to be. It looks like they are. I'm going to get this right into the center, and we're going to squeeze. Okay, well, sounded terrible, but I think that's just because the pieces were already cracked. But the good news is I think that crimped it pretty well. You can see it closed down on it just how it was supposed to. And if this was in a little bit better shape, I think that this connection would have done what it was supposed to do. So I'm going to call that a success. And the next time we do this, we are going to use the right crimping tool first, and we are going to crimp ourselves a cable plug. After that, we'll be able to solder this in where the Timekeeper goes, and on the other side, we'll take these wires and solder it into our breakout board here on the bottom, and we'll be lining up each of the wires with the number that they're going to be going to for the Timekeeper, and then we should have ourselves a removable Timekeeper for the 450. Alright, well, cut off the broken, busted one, which I'm not going to use because this one's it's pretty dang wonky. But cut it off, and we've got our ribbon cable here, and I'm going to try my hardest not to break this one. Because while these things weren't exactly pricey, they weren't, I mean, I want to say it was like $2 a piece, so plus shipping. I think shipping was probably more expensive, but anyway, DigiKey is where I got these from, and I'll have the part listing in the comments for anybody that's looking to do this on their own. So just as before, we're going to have this side facing up, so the farthest edge is to the left, not this edge, but this edge, and we're going to put that on the last wire there, if you can see it. Now we're going to put the clip over it, make sure it's still lined up. Okay, that's got that in place. So now should be able to slide this onto our crimper, like so. Make sure those are still lined up how they're supposed to be. So they're not. They're not. I have to actually take this off. See how this is not aligned exactly how it should be. Let's see if we can take this clip off and slide these wires over a little. There we go. Make sure these are straight. I'm actually going to push this into the wires a little bit. Now, we'll see if we can slide this on. I'm kind of using that to pinch it a little bit, but not all the way. Next, now that we've got it all lined up, we're going to squeeze as hard as we can. And notice we did not hear the terrible sound of plastic snapping. That's because this time it went off without a hitch. So there's our little ribbon cable. And from there, we'll go ahead and cut the rest of these off, like so. So they're all nice and even. And next step is we need to cut the line, or cut the wire, and we'll be able to solder it. I'm going to give myself quite a bit of wire because I don't want to have to cut this again. If we put it down there, Might be able to curve underneath the motherboard. Not entirely sure on that. I'm not sure how all this is going to go, if you want the honest truth. But we want to give ourselves as much leeway as we can. So that is hopefully enough. Because that's the wire, or that's the line I've made myself. The cable. Alright, so next step is going to be to desolder the old Timekeeper from the motherboard. And if you've watched my video on the Timekeeper mod for the 210 or 910, I'm going to be way more careful with this motherboard, even though I believe it is a much newer model, but I'm still going to be careful because, well, they're not exactly easy to come by, these systems. So the other thing I want to try to do is take a look at this and see how easy it's going to be to install this. I'm not going to do anything on this until I figure out how I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna. I was gonna say I'm not gonna do anything in this until I solder it in, but I don't think that's the case. I am going to make this first. I'm going to solder these wires together into the breakout board, and hopefully that goes off without a hitch. We got to make sure we pin it down or solder it in to the right pads, which I think shouldn't be too terribly difficult. I'm kind of pulling these off in pairs because I'll do one on one side, one on the other. So, which should match up with this. This right here. In fact, let me get my multimeter and we'll test it out. So we're going to strip a couple of these wires here. So this should be pin 1. This should be pin 28 that I have right here. I just need a little bit of wire showing. Okay, there we go. That should be enough. Now, if I understand how these ribbon cables work, this should be pin 1. This should be pin 28. No, just kidding. This should be pin 28. This should be pin 1. So we're going to attach our cable here to pin 28. And if we're soldering this on, this should be the yellow one. Great. So then this should be pin 1. Yep, there we go. So we'll be alternating on this circuit. We'll essentially start with the yellow will be 28, orange will be 1, red will be 27, brown will be 2, and so on down the line. And we should be able to solder those in pairs, just going down the line, I would think, just like that, like that, like that. But yeah, I'm still kind of working on a game plan for how I want to lay those out best. If I want to come in from the side, or if I just want to, maybe I'll start with the last at the bottom and work my way up. But got to come up with a game plan for that. That'll be my next step. Alright, well, we're going to give this a shot, see if we can get this soldered on. I've taken the liberty of separating all of these, tried to get them down all the same length, but hasn't really worked out exactly as I hoped it would. Feels like every time I pull it, these ones get further down. I don't know. But I think it's good enough for now. What I'm going to do is to try to match this up. Essentially, I'm going to have one go one way, next one go the other way, and so on until I get them all split. So hopefully I can get them all the same length by doing that. Might make things a little easier. Beautiful. Got them all kind of split apart. My goal is to hopefully, not sure how well it's going to work, but I want to solder one side in here, solder the other side in there, and try to keep these essentially as close to the split as possible. I'm thinking if I start with one side, maybe I can do that effectively. So we're starting with orange, and we are going to try to position this in a way that I don't mess it up. But we're gonna just try to solder these in as best I can. Get some scissors and try cutting those uniform length. Okay. Now I've got to strip them. I was really hoping to keep all those together, but it is what it is. I feel like we're gonna have to split them out more, so I'm gonna need a lot of leeway. Alright, well, we're gonna just go at it. Let's see what we can do. tone these out. Make sure that everything lines up how we expect it to. Alright, we're in business. So, now we are going to desolder our existing Timekeeper. But that I am going to be doing on a different day, because I have already done way more soldering than I set out to do tonight. I'm also going to have to be very careful. We've got some resistors, actually, looks like some resistor and a capacitor there, so I'll have to be very careful of those components. But we'll start with putting some new solder on here, some flux, some new solder on the pins, and then I'm going to put a new silicone tip on my solder sucker, and hopefully that will make things go very smoothly. That'll be the next step. Nope. Okay, we are soldered in and ready to go. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is pop this over to the TV, give it a test, and see if we can save the date and boot it back up. And, or I'm sorry, turn it off, disconnect it from power, boot it back up, and see if we still got the same date. Moment of truth. Alright, well, I think we got good news. Here we are running with the new Timekeeper installed, and I booted it up, and it is already set to January of 2024. Now, what I've actually got some advice from somebody on a CDI forum that is actually recommending that anytime you get a Timekeeper and it's already got time installed on it, it usually means that it's a used one. Obviously, they've already set the clock, but what happens is usually they can disable the oscillator. The fact that it's not so close to today makes me feel a little bit better, because it's almost a year older, so maybe it was, or almost 2 years old, so maybe it was set and then the oscillator was disabled, and now we're plugging it in and it's keeping time. But either way, I'm going to change this to the current date. I'm going to power it off, disconnect it from power, and try booting it back up and see if it stays on that date. I think it should, which means I think we're in good shape. Alright, booted it up and we still got today's date, so we are rocking and rolling. Next step for me is going to be getting this back into our case, and I've got a plan for how I'm going to do that. We're going to see how well that plan comes together. Alright, we've got our case here. I'll zoom out a little bit because my plan initially was to try to fold this ribbon cable over top, but I think that's actually going to be more stressful to the pins on the board. If I bring this up, it's going to be pulling on that, which it should be strong enough with the solder joints that are there. But what I want to try to do instead is fold this under the motherboard. Let's see if I can do something like this, and then we're going to angle it like so, a little bit lower. See if we can come out over on this side. There's a bunch of standoffs, so this might be a little more difficult than I was imagining. Put that solder out of here. So I'm trying to bring this around, and let's see. Make sure we don't go behind these screws here. So we'll see if we can go a little bit lower. Right below the screws. See if that fits. Maybe. Come on. We're in there. I don't know how that's going to do with the standoffs. It's a little tight, but I think that's good. Now the real question is, what am I going to do with all this excess wire here? I'm going to wrap that in tape, but let's see. I did not think I would have that much excess. Let's see. So I got to make sure that this is not going to get a screw on it. It doesn't look like it is. See if we can coil this up like so. That's very close. Very, very close. Power button's going to be sitting right here too. Just gotta make sure I don't mess with that. Oh, so close. So close. almost close enough to say it fits. I'm really curious, actually, to see if it does. We're not touching any screws. Let's see if this goes down at all. Well, you know what? That fits. All right. It's a little tight, but I think that's going to work. I think that's going to work just fine. So, we're going to try it. And let's see if I can grease this thing up. That was one of the other things that I had on my list for this. So we're going to do that before we close everything back up. But I think that's going to work. I'm actually not terribly unhappy with this right now. Just had to coil up the excess cable because I'm not going to re-crimp or do anything else to it again. And we've got just enough space. I'm going to have to tape this, I think. Well, yeah, I'm going to tape it. I'm just going to wrap some of the insulating tape around it, and then we're going to call that good. First thing I'm going to do, though, is we're going to grease this guy up with some white lithium grease when I find it. Sometimes when you're looking for things, it can be really difficult to find things that are small, but it can also be difficult when you're looking for something that's this size, and what you really need to find is this cartoonishly large tube of white lithium grease. So I found it. So we're going to try applying some very, very gingerly to our gear here, right there. And we're going to try working it through. Maybe, not really sure if I can. Maybe I'll try just, yeah, okay. Well, we're just going to try working it around as best we can and let the motor do its, ooh, yeah, we don't want to do that. Let the motor do its work. Okay. Okay. We're going to try that and see how it goes. First step we're going to take is getting our ribbon back in place here. Like so. And wrap around our wires for that connector. And this is going to, I guess, just kind of move its way through. Let's get our power button. See if we can make this a little insulated. Our Timekeeper. And that's really all I'm going to do is protect those connectors on both sides. There we go. Okay. Now we should be in good shape to put our shielding on. Get this in here. Okay, we're going to do a dry test run. Just make sure that I don't get any sparks. And I actually want to see how those gears work on the disk drive now. Okay, it's feeling pretty good. I don't know why this is zoomed in as much as it is. Sorry about that. But everything seems to fit. So we're going to give it a test run, see how it goes. Alright, well, things are sounding much better than they were before. A little squeaky still, but if you remember the sound that it made before, that was much better than it made than it did this time, or than it's making now. So, or this is much better than it was making before. So that's good. Still sounds a little rough. Well, I think I found that it appears to be the burned CD that it's having the most trouble with, which I guess I'm not entirely surprised by. I've tried a few of these games. I got an assortment of them, and it seems to be much quieter with the majority of them. So I think that's good. I think we're in great shape. This is working way better than it did before. I can actually save. It's kept the time, and yeah, I think we're ready to put this thing back together completely now. Alright, well, it has been a while since I started working on this, but I didn't remember that there were only 4 screws holding this top shell on, holding everything together really, and that's going to make things hopefully a little easier now that I've gotten everything kind of situated underneath. I think we're in good shape to just close her back up. And I also need to test out the digital video module, if you will. Got our T8. Man, 4 screws to take the whole thing apart. I'm a fan. Alright, there we go. Our Timekeeper mod is installed. We've got everything back in place. We're going to install our digital video module. There we go. Digital video cartridge, sorry. This thing stresses me out because all these dang pins. It's insane. But luckily they got these slots. These keys will fit into those slots there. So hopefully there's not really much of a way you can do it wrong. Hopefully. Okay. We're seated back in. Put our video cartridge cover back on. Close our lid, and I'm actually going to test out some Space Ace, which actually makes use of the digital video cartridge. So that'll be my last test. Alright, well, Space Ace does load, and I'm able to play it. I am not good at it at all, it turns out. But that means our digital video card works, and yeah, I'm super happy. So we were able to resurrect this this 450 CD-i, and there I go dying again. Even when I wasn't talking, it was really hard. But yeah, we've now got the Timekeeper installed, and it's modularized so that now I can actually break this thing open in 10 to 20 years, replace the Timekeeper chip, and close it back up and keep playing it. But I'm very excited I didn't have to cut any of the heat shield. It was a little bit of a learning curve, a little bit of a learning experience the whole time, but I definitely think it's a doable workaround. I really don't like cutting any of the original pieces of hardware, whether it's the interference shield or the case itself. So I was very glad that I was able to keep everything intact and just get some different pieces. So I'll put some links to those pieces if you want to try this mod yourself. I do think it's very doable. You just got to keep track of which pins go where, but hopefully that's going to keep this thing running for years to come. And we got a new disc laser or optical pickup in there. Put some lithium grease on it, and it seems to be running just fine. It's very quiet now that it's started to run on a few more games, and as long as I avoid the burned discs, we should be in good shape. The older model that I have, the 910, seems to play burn discs with no problem, but this one seems to not like them very much. But this was definitely a lot of fun. Took me a while to get all the parts and everything going, but I'm glad that the plan came together without too much trouble. So, as always, hopefully you know more than you did before, and I appreciate you watching, so please like and subscribe.